No public hearing on sheets, probably. Do. That's sheets, okay. It's kind of late. Are we ready, Mr. or Director Power?
Good, about 10 seconds, I'll let you know. Or you can go ahead and get started. I'm just doing the Zoom setup, so. Go ahead.
Good evening. Welcome to the Charter Township Van Buren Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, July 10th, 2024. At this time, I'm calling the meeting to order. Could we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could we have a roll call, please?
Sherry Budd. Bernie Grant.
Here.
Here.
Anna Atchison. Jackson Paul is excused. Jeff Jar.
Here.
Brian Cullen.
Here. At this time, we have an agenda before us. Could I have a motion concerning the agenda, please?
Through the chair, make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
We have a motion to approve the agenda as presented and support. Is there any discussions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? At this time, we also have the meeting minutes from the meeting of June 26, 2024. I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the minutes as presented.
Support.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Correspondence and announcements, nothing at this time. Moving ahead, we have a public hearing before us. It's item number 1, case 24005, Silken Gold Sheets, Premier DeQuinder 2 LLC special land use request and its public hearing. This is a request by applicant Silken Gold on behalf of property owner Premier DeQuinder 2 LLC to construct a gasoline fueling station, convenience store, and drive-through restaurant, including a 6,139 square foot convenience store and drive-through restaurant building, and a 4,786.7 square foot canopy with 12 fueling pumps. The site is zoned C1, General Business District. Gasoline filling stations and drive-through establishments require special land use approval and a public hearing with the Planning Commission in the C1 district in accordance with Article 12, Chapter 3 of Van Buren Township zoning ordinance. The site includes 15.95 acres of property on parcels V 125-83-041-99 0001-001 and V 125-83-041-99-0001-714 at the southwest corner of Ecorse Road and Haggerty Road. This time, I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, I move to open the public hearing. My apologies, Commissioner.
Support.
Motion and support to open the public hearing. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, at this time, we'll entertain anybody from the audience that would like to come up, or the public in general, and voice their comments concerning this issue.
Chair, if I could, I would like to just present a very brief evaluation of where the site is located, or a brief analysis of where the site is located, and just kind of to put some visuals behind the description you just provided. So this is a roughly 15.95 acre site at the southwest corner of Haggerty Road and Ecorse Road. Kitty corner from an existing BP gas station and truck stop use, and adjacent to the Crossroads North Distribution Park, and right next door to the Crossroads South Distribution Park by Ashley Capital. So as the chair mentioned, it is a gas station, convenience store, and drive-through restaurant use. And at this point, we typically would just have members of the audience who would like to state their comments or questions as part of the public hearing, and then we'll get into much deeper analysis in the staff review portion of the new business item pertaining to this request a little later in our agenda tonight. So anybody who would like to speak to this request, please feel free to step up, and we can bring up other graphics or visuals as necessary during your comments. Thank you.
Okay, anybody from the public? Please state your name and your address, please.
Sure. Michael Awada, 11250 Haggerty Road. Good evening, planning commissioners here. I just want to say, I'm quite upset that we're even considering such site for this development for another gas station. Our gas station, again, I'm all for, we're a free market economy, obviously all for competition, but when there's validity behind it, meaning demand. I can tell you, our site's been closed for nearly 3 years. We considered redeveloping that site for several years because it really didn't really make sense. There was no demand there. And now, here we are, investing $4 million into a site that was blighted. I mean, literally on the verge of blight, trying to enhance and create opportunity for this city to make it look better. And you're considering to bring not even a local developer, somebody from out of the state that doesn't even consider what the benefit to the community is. Here we are, everything we do, we consider the community. I'll give you a few examples. Most of our sites, we don't sell alcohol at our sites because we consider the traffic off of a freeway and what the impact would it be for drunk driving. These people don't care. We don't sell flavored vape products anywhere within 1,000 feet of a school because we know what it does to community. That's just reality. We're within reality, not just what maybe something may allow for use or not. These are things that need to be considered here. We employ local people. We keep all of our money here locally, none of which, I mean, think about who's representing this firm, Skillman Gold. They're not even from Michigan. That just tells you what the tie is to the city and even the state. So I hope you consider these things, but frankly, I am quite disappointed that this is even being considered. I hope you hear me here today. Thank you.
Jim Foley, 9651 Jackson Street. Could we get that image brought back up?
I'll try to get
I mean, I don't know if any of the planning board, I've only come to complain about one other thing that you guys ignored and approved anyway, but has anybody walked and looked at this property? All right, probably not, but parallel to Ecorse Road, there's a storm drain there. I went and walked out there last week when I read this. You know, we've got, you know, there's a storm drain runs from almost Walden Woods all the way past Hannon Road. I just went by it before I came here with all this rain. It's about 3 foot deeper than it was last week. Turtles, ducks, frogs, I mean, a lot of animals live in there or whatever. To put a gas station right next to it, I don't know that there could be a dumber thing to put on this property. I don't know if we recruited this company to come in here or they just said, hey, we want to build a gas station. I know they're building one in Ecorse or on Tyler Road in Romulus. I looked up sheets on my way here for spills that they've had in the past. They have been fined in the past for spills. Sorry about that. You know, I don't know what else we can put there, but a gas station there, I don't see how that benefits any of the residents of the township. I mean, if we're just looking to get revenue for the township, yeah, build a gas station, you'll get tax money. I don't see how it helps me as a resident living within a half mile of there. But, you know, I would definitely consider this to be, you know, I would deny the special land use for a gas station. What can go on a C1 without a special use? What could somebody come in here and say, we want to build this?
There are a variety of different businesses that could go in. It could be a restaurant, it could be a,
So, I mean, there are other options that could go there that maybe aren't gonna have an environmental impact of, you know, a gas spill. That's my big thing, a gas spill. You know, obviously, we're not gonna get this image up, but if you follow that drain down to the east, as it runs next to Ecorse Road, it's next to Ecorse Road on one side and farmland to the south. And there's somebody growing some kind of crops there right now. You know, so I mean, and it flows from west to east. So whatever goes in that drain at Haggerty Road is gonna flow east, all the way under the freeway, and then down to Hannon Road, farther to the east. It moves pretty quick, it's moving fast today. I dropped a gum wrapper in it, and by the time I dropped it, it was already under the little bridge that's there. So, you know, I don't know that, or maybe you would benefit from walking out there and looking at it yourself. It doesn't seem to fit for me. You know, I don't know what we could put there, but a gas station does not seem right.
thank you. Is there anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Daniel McCausland. I live at 328 Haggerty Road. I've been at that location for 44 years. I travel this corridor a lot because I have friends that live down here and Huron River. So when I saw, actually I didn't even know about this project. My buddy down here said, do you realize they're going to put a Sheetz in here? We're kind of coffee nuts. And I said, well, man, you're going to love the coffee. And he says, really? What, tell me about it. I've never been and don't know nothing about it. I said, well, I never was either till I started. I travel pretty good, you know, from my former business life and now being retired. Me and my wife have a little RV van, and we just came back from all the way to California and back, you know, and we had to find places to buy fuel and eat, things like that. So in today's world, you know, you punch it in. My wife's the navigator, and she's like, hey, let's go here, let's go there, right? So we experienced a lot of new places. The first time I experienced the Sheetz, I'm a patient at the Cleveland Clinic. So my wife went with me a couple years ago, and she said, hey, I heard this place has got great coffee, let's go. So, you know, it's kind of like our go-to stop now. So I'm just telling you from experience as a traveler that it's a clean, safe hub to go to. I don't think it's anything hateful to be in a community because you've got your local people, right? You've got your favorite locals that you buy your fuel and you go in and get your pop and things. I don't think that's going to change. I think what this is more geared to is the regional or state traveler who's going to come off the interstate, just like I do when I go to Ohio. It's new to me. And if it was no good, I wouldn't go back. But, you know, when you're on the road, and especially at night or in the wintertime, you want consistency. You want to be able to go to a place where you know, you could walk in, leave your vehicle, leave your dog in the car, just have a peace of mind. And when you go to a strange place, I was just out in Wyoming, and I got some fuel, and I said, how's the town? The guy said, you don't want to stay here. This is a dangerous town.
Oh, my.
You want to get back on the interstate. And I'm like, really? It looks peaceful. He says, it's not. He says, just go. And I said, okay, thanks. So from my perspective, I think from what I've experienced in Ohio, it's a viable place that you can go to and feel safe. That's really, I'm not saying on either side of I think it's a nice looking building. it's similar to what I see in Ohio. It's, from every time I go to them, they're clean, they're safe. You could have nice coffee. You can get a good sandwich. You can buy some fuel. So I think, I don't know. I've been looking at this and I see there's a lot of people that are against them. I don't know why. Give them a chance. The state of Ohio has, and I don't think they're, from my perspective, I don't see what they do wrong. They seem to do a lot right from my perspective. And to me, it's a nice looking building, and I think you'll be, for me, I think it's a great location. Ecorse Road, I live right up the road. I mean, I remember when this road was dirt. When I got here, it was all dirt. It used to be like driving on the moon. So, you know, when I'd come down to my buddy's house, I'd say, man, that road's horrible. I don't even want to come down it no more. He goes, yeah, one of these days we'll pave it. So here we are. About 44 years later, here we are. So from people just to say it's a gas station, like it's negative, it's more than a gas station. It's a nice little restaurant, coffee bar. It's everything you would expect a little compact restaurant with fuel. Let's put it that way. That's the way I take it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Donna Ikov. I live at 41560 Ecorse, right here. So if this building's gonna be here, where are there gonna be driveways at? And also the storm drains right there, shouldn't you think about widening the storm drain so there's no more flooding? What happened last year? Or is it just the revenue? Or like this corner lot right here, somebody was gonna try to build a restaurant so many years ago and you denied it because you wanted the land for animals and everything? So what's gonna happen here, everybody's building and building and building and the animals, and then all the riffraff that's gonna come here from the apartments, and then the gas station over here, I live there, so I can see a lot of stuff. There's a lot of, trucks all night long, truck drivers. Now they're having the truck drivers pay to park there. There's a lot of riffraff there too, because of that. So I have a lot more questions. I wrote them down. I have sinus issues right now, so it's hard to talk. But yeah, so where are the driveways gonna be? Are they gonna be off of Ecorse? Are they gonna be off of Haggerty or? Is right there too, next to Crossroads North. And then what's gonna happen with there's a lot of traffic now. Is there gonna be an extra lane put in? I don't know how, cause the storm drain's right there. But even on like right here. So these two houses are mine, then there's another house. Right, so lights are gonna be shining in my house all day long and all night long, and then people walking, are you putting sidewalks in? I mean, I don't know how with the storm drain being right
Director
there.
Power, a lot of those answers, I believe, are going to be answered during their presentation when they come in front of us for site plan approval, preliminary site plan approval, as well as special land use. So if you would like, voice your comments, and then if you have questions, we'll open it up and allow you to ask questions for
Take the
anything that's
questions
not
after
answered.
the presentation then. Thank you.
Anyone else for a comment?
Ali Salame, 41358 Ecorse Road. I believe putting a gas station there is not going to offer anything new to the community. We have a lot of gas stations around already that's offering the same services. And, see, the people building this have been cited for environmental violations. There's lawsuits against them already in progress. So I believe that it's a bad idea for them to put another gas station where there's many around already. There's not going to be offering anything new to the community. It's just going to be more environmental hazards and traffic congestion. And the roads already are not in great shape at that intersection. So I think it's a very bad idea. So I wish you would take that into consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else?
John Lincik, 41360 Ecorse Road. My big concern is the traffic. I don't know if you've ever gotten off this, if you're headed northbound and you get off at Ecorse Road in the morning, and you're sometimes almost stuck on the freeway waiting to get a left-hand turn in. I know on the way to work, I've seen several accidents. There's been a fatality a couple of years ago. It seems like almost once a month, there's some kind of crash from people zooming through. As of this morning, it's half flooded, still because of the rain we've had. I know a couple of people that own businesses in this area, and they've been getting destroyed with the highway for 3 years, not offering proper traffic flow. Now Haggerty Road northbound's been closed, and who knows how long it's going to take to, come back southbound. I just think with 2 gas stations north of us, 2 gas stations south, 2 to the east, do we really need another gas station? You got a Tim Hortons down the street that I don't know what their business is like, but that'll detract from them. They just built that nice new place, so just another gas station just seems like it's overkill. That's all.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board. My name is Michael Berry. I own 11175 Haggerty Road, my father, my uncle, and I. We also own 11015 Haggerty Road, the 20-acre lot over there behind the mobile gas station that's getting redeveloped. I am the Tim Hortons franchisee at the BP. I'm an independent owner, 2nd generation. You guys are trying to bring in a big company that has over 700 stores. They're ran by private equity. They're not mom and pop shops. They don't have a face that's been in our community for over 30 years. Okay? Today, the gas station business, we lose at least anywhere between 8 to 10% every year because the cars and the trucks are just more efficient. Today, we're changing a lot of this to EVs, and that's great. We're looking into that as well. Okay, we're open-minded being off the interstate. But at the same time, this site is not inviting people from the community just to come get a cup of coffee. They're looking to get those trucks. They want the diesel. That 15-acre lot, trust me, they're not coming for the guys in the neighborhood. They want the big trucks that have torn up Haggerty Road for the past 20 years. Those potholes are not because of the people driving their pickup like me. They're because of the big trucks, the 18-wheelers. And when you put our sheets there, you're inviting these trucks off the highway, yes, to come make a nice stop. But I accommodate for RVs. I accommodate for everyone, okay? At the same time, Speedway, who just got bought out by 7-Eleven, has the one over on Belleville and Tyler. They're a big company from Japan. They're not based out of Texas. Everyone can use a front, okay? They offer the same sandwiches, a great coffee bar. They all are in business, and I understand that everyone wants to survive. But you also have to take into consideration the impact of the area. You have to take into consideration the flow of traffic on Haggerty Road coming up, okay? We look at it that, yes, if they have something new to offer, I'm looking right now, what do I have new to offer that I could build on my 20 acres? I'm not looking to build another gas station. Gas stations are dinosaurs today. They are dinosaurs. To redo your tanks, the environmental impact that it's going to cause is a lot greater than what anyone can foresee in the future, yes. Okay, but bringing this site to that location, you guys have to have a traffic study, an impact study. You got to see what it's going to do to this corner, especially with all the new developments that have already came in up the road for FedEx and Ashley Capital and everyone else. Thank you very much for your time and have a great evening.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Frank Jarbo, 39315 Ecorse Road. My family owns and operates the gas station on Ecorse and Hannon Road. Wanted to talk about a couple different things. So when we were developed the site at Ecorse and Hannon, we had to go through FEMA. It was underneath a floodplain, had to go produce drawings through Eagle to get it approved. This whole site sits in a floodplain. So not only, I mean, even if you guys approve them here today, they have an uphill battle that's beyond what anybody, that's why this site has sat with the way it has for so many years. That speaks to the flooding that's in the area. And now you're gonna place tanks in that ground. I mean, that's something that with unstable soils like that, and we've been developing them 20 years, and the soils that are in this area are not the greatest. And if you were to place, especially south of Ecorse, anything south of Ecorse, they have a tremendous uphill battle on trying to develop this. And we still get floods on Ecorse Road downstream all the way past almost Cogswell, as far as that. One thing we want to bring up, and all of us are independent gas station owners here, is Sheetz does not own their sites. I'm a developer at the very end of the day, and they've approached me on multiple of my sites and wanting to supposedly buy them. So what they do is they typically go into a market and they'll say, okay, we're gonna ground lease this site, or we'll do a lease. So that gives them the freedom, the flexibility to one day, yeah, they're on the hook for the lease, 10, 15 years, 20 years, whatever they may be. But just like Circle K came into this market, opened up a few stores and left. A number of other retailers have done the same thing. These are all independent owners here. So we've been across the freeway for 40 years at the end of the day. Now you're gonna invite somebody from out that's gonna lease the property, doesn't even want to put in the monetary fund number to buy the property. And they'll bring in a developer from out of state, go get this done, we'll pay an exorbitant lease. That's all their model is. Do not care about the community. There's to drive sales and put the competition out of business. So we strongly suggest that you deny this. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone on Zoom, Director Power?
No participants on Zoom tonight. And that is confirmed.
Okay. Is there anyone else? Seeing none, I will welcome a motion to close the public hearing.
Through the chair, I move to close the public hearing.
Support.
We have a motion of support to close the public hearing. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thank you. Excuse me. Moving ahead. We have new business before us. The first item up is for an amended site plan request for the mobile gas station redevelopment and drive-through. A request by owner IS Real Estate LLC, Belleville Oil Company Incorporated, for an amended final site plan including minor changes to proposed architectural elevations for a new convenience store with retail and food service associated with a redeveloped gasoline filling station. The location is a plus or minus 1.06 acre site, Zone C1 General Business District, located at 11250 Haggerty Road. Tax parcel ID number 830519900030002 at the northwest corner of the intersection of the I-94 North Service Drive and Haggerty Road. First, could we have a presentation by Township staff? Director Power.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I would first just like to call to attention of the Planning Commission. There are a couple of recent additions to your materials for tonight's meeting that were provided that help to explain this request a little bit more clearly. If you notice, there's an email that I sent today. It has 5 attachments listed in that email, 2 of which pertain to this request. As mentioned, this is a request by the owner of 11250 Haggerty Road, to make some adjustments to the architectural treatment on their proposed redeveloped mobile gas station site. So just for folks in the audience, this is different than the request we just heard a public hearing on. We will hear about that more in a little bit. This request is to propose a Lincoln Lock cladding material over the currently approved facade materials on the building. Your packet contains some drawings that show the nature of this change, some analysis by staff, but I also wanted to call to your attention, there's an email today, which is attachment 1 that I've submitted and is in front of you right now, that explains from the owner that just describes the intent of this change. It's to help, and per the owner, to help enhance the facade of the building, giving it a grand appearance. And there's a spec sheet, which is attachment number 2. It's an 8-page spec package for the proposed aluminum fins that are being added. And you'll see that look like this with your materials tonight. There was some good feedback about getting material samples with the time that I provided the applicant with that feedback. There was not time to bring actual material samples tonight, but you do have this spec sheet package that you can reference, as well as the materials in the packet. I'll try to put an image on the screen here shortly that shows the proposal. You'll notice in this sample, you'll see the color that's selected as the fin material, birchwood, and the applicant has also provided elevation drawings that show the areas that are proposed to be changed. I will put those on the screen. And I would also like to invite the applicant to come up and speak to this after I'm done as well. So let me see if I can get a good image for you to look at. And I do apologize, there's some color on this just to show you where the changes are proposed. These are not going to be purple to my understanding, they're the birchwood color. But the facade that's proposed with this mobile gas station redevelopment includes some brick, an aluminum canopy over the entryway, and some horizontal siding. In areas where horizontal siding was previously proposed as being kind of the main material, in certain areas that you see yellow and orange here, there's now a proposal to drop this vertical cladding over those areas, again, per the applicant, to provide more of a grand appearance. The standard, I'd like to just point out some of the standards that you'll look for with commercial sites in general, which applies to this site as well as the site that's later on the agenda tonight, that all buildings in commercial zoning districts shall meet certain requirements, including that brick or another material of similar architectural quality and appearance as determined by the Planning Commission shall be the principal material for exterior building surfaces. And as you note, in this case, that remains, the majority of this building has brick along the facades, and that was reviewed at the Planning Commission level back in August of 2023 when the final site plan was first approved. Buildings shall also incorporate roof articulation, projection, and relief, covered walkways into facades, which include entrances or display windows, or which are adjacent to parking or visible from rights of way. So those concepts were explored in the final site plan approval back in August. Again, the main nature of the change before you tonight is to have this vertical cladding over the existing approved materials. Michael Awada is here to speak more in depth about this request. I would offer that there is some discretion here from the Planning Commission. It's an amendment to an approved site plan. There are no specific prescriptive ordinance requirements for this kind of change other than what I just referenced with the primary building materials for commercial zoning districts. It's not as specific as you'd see in other zoning districts like the Belleville Road Overlay District, or for certain uses like senior housing. There's more discretion that the Planning Commission has. So I would invite you to listen to Mr. Awada and see what he has to say about it, and then you can make a decision or request additional information. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I approach?
Yes.
Good evening again. So this really is a minor modification. Nothing's being changed here other than the fact that we're adding these aluminum fins to enhance the elevation of the building. This is gonna be our first store for what's gonna be known as Zips Market, first of 49 that we're developing here in the state that are ours. We own the property, and this will be kind of the staple, which is why we're hoping you would agree with this minor modification here. Yeah, I'm happy to take any questions, but longboard in the material is a very well-known, very recognized product. It's weather-resistant, all the things you would want to have for a longer-term building. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you. Planning Commission,
Through the chair.
yes.
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions. You just passed around the sample. Is the fin going to be 6 inches deep or 4 inches deep? I think it's shallower.
Oh, whatever's on the plan, that's what it is. This was what I could get here within a couple of hours' notice.
So it says 6 inches, so it's not the narrower one's the 6 inches?
Correct.
Okay. So I guess the next question I have is, from what's been talked about and what's in these drawings, it seems like all you're doing is adding fins to the original design. Is that
That's
correct?
exactly
So you haven't
correct.
changed any colors
Nothing.
from, you're adding cost, right? Right.
Enhancing the building,
Right.
correct.
So, which is, I think, fine. I don't have any issue with that. The only thing I would recommend is, I look at drawings here and they're not
Sure.
consistent. I see renderings that aren't consistent
Yeah,
with drawings.
Unfortunately, we did have a designer to draw up our generic kind of Zips Market, and we applied some of those things to that, and some of it kind of got missed. But what you want to follow is the architectural plans, the ones that are being presented for approval and permitting. These are just simply as a reference point for the material, specifically for these aluminum fins that are being in front of you here.
So you're saying ignore the rendering that's on the second sheet here that shows that vertical material?
Yeah.
It's not, because it shows canopies all the way across.
Well,
It
that
mo-
was-
It shows a modification of the north, which would be the east. Is that, which way is it facing, east or north?
It's whatever's on the
Okay.
plan. Yep.
But, okay, so it's what's in the original drawings, not, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Comments, questions?
My only comment through the chair is the addition is very nice. It looks like it does enhance it and give it some dimension and some additional color. So I like it.
Thank you.
I have no objection to it.
I have a question. In the letter from Director Power, it's saying replacement of the finished fiber cement horizontal siding. Does that mean what is going to be behind?
It's that aluminum stuff that I've circulated here.
Yeah, but it's going to be spaced, or is there an interlock panel that goes between?
What I just heard, my understanding is the original design stays and they're just adding fins.
Just adding those fins.
So the fibered cement is remaining on the
Yes,
building, and this is going over top of it. Is that,
It's going to be a brick building, just as presented. It's going to continue to be the same way. The facade there is just going to have the additional aluminum fins. You'll also have that aluminum top portion of it that you're seeing up on the right there.
I like the fins, I'm not getting wrong, I'm just trying to he says you're going to replace
Yeah,
the
it's not clear.
siding, and is that really what is happening, or is this just being attached to the siding?
Just to correct my own language, it's really replacing what is the exterior-most material. So per the applicant, it sounds like it's actually placing that material on top of the existing horizontal siding. So
Exactly.
It's not really replacing,
Correct.
just replacing the exterior appearance of that wall.
Okay,
Yeah, this just is simply just to add dimension, and it'll actually give it a floating appearance. Something we've seen in other places and we're adopting.
I like it. From your renderings, yes, I was just trying to get the construction method.
No, I get it. I appreciate the question for clarity.
Is it true also that the overhang in front of the door is being reduced in size?
It's going from 36 to 48, just for symmetry.
That's bigger. 36 to 48 is bigger, not.
Yes, it is
but
bigger.
The plans, I think, said 1'10".
It's whatever, the plans,
plans
it's
said, so
whatever
it-
the plan said. I'm simply here because my architect couldn't come here. Otherwise, he'd be here. But really, the only enhancement that we're doing is adding these fins to the facade.
Okay.
Nothing further. That was the direction I provided. That's what we're asking for today.
Okay.
Thank you.
You just get stuck in the hot seat, that's all.
right.
Mr. Chair? if I could
Yes,
ask
please.
Director Power, were the color renderings to be included as part of the conditionally or the amended site plan? I know that we have some sheets in the packet that had conditionally approved renderings with final site plan approval that look like they're on architectural engineering, stamped and signed. Does that mean the color renderings are also going to go into this final site plan amendment if we were to approve the amendment? Because I ask because the color renderings are not, not what's being built, and that could confuse the issue.
My understanding is the color renderings are not intended to be added to the permit set.
No.
They're more to illustrate what the cladding looks like.
Correct.
From a further conversation.
Exactly.
Through the chair. But that's the color you're proposing right there, right?
Correct.
Yes?
What you got in your hand?
The one, the almond. I'm asking.
Yes, it is. It is that.
Yeah, that's what it says on that chart, other chart.
Yeah, this overhang right here is now shrunk. Doesn't matter.
Chair, I know there was a good question about the overhang.
Yes, sir.
Could I put, if the chair doesn't mind, I'll put just the actual proposed elevation drawing up, and it has a side view that'll show that overhang.
Yeah, I see it.
Depth and the front view that shows the.
What is Birchwood? It's for the drive-through.
Focus in. The approved, thank you, approved permit set. An overhang that's right here. And there's a cross view showing what that looks like in front of the building right here.
Can't see it, Director Power.
You can keep in your mind's eye that scale. So we may have to visit what the 48-inch versus the 36-inch dimension is in regard to this, but it may be that the dimension of that is shrunk a little bit, but there is still an overhang in this section here that will still cover the entryway of the building.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I-
Commissioner
I-
Jarrett?
I am not opposed to shrinking the size of the overhang, even though that is one of the 3.110E constraints. I just merely wanted to note that it has been changed on the plan. It's not the only thing. We do look at them, you know? And
Yes.
I think it's okay in my mind to have used a slightly less overhanging overhang.
Okay.
Huh? Canopy. I'm sorry, the architect on the commission has said that it's a canopy.
Okay, excuse me. Do we have any other comments from the commissioners? Okay, since there is no further comment, do we have any consideration on this item from the commissioners?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Jar.
I think, hearing no objection to the changes, I'd move to grant the applicant IS Real Estate LLC, Belleville Oil Company Incorporated, the amended final site plan approval to construct a new convenience store with retail and food services associated with a redeveloped gasoline filling station at the site located at 11250 Haggerty Road, based on the analysis and subject to the conditions found in the letter of staff dated July 3rd, 2024, and the discussions we've had here this evening.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner Jar, supported by Commissioner Atchison. Do we have any discussion on this motion? Then could we have a roll call vote, please?
Bernie Grant,
Yes.
Sherry Bud,
Yes.
Peter Creel. Medina Atchison,
Yes.
Jeff Jar,
Yes.
Brian Cullen.
Yes. Okay, you have your approval. Yes, go forth.
Thank you.
May want his bar.
Or- Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 2 on the agenda tonight. And are we going to handle this with their single presentation through, since their item, both 2 and 3, a single presentation by them, Director Power?
That's a good idea. There are going to be 2 actions that will be considered potentially by the Planning Commission. We typically would have-
Separate, yes.
Yep, the special land use approval would be the first address as staff, and then we'd get into the site plan. The first being addressed by the planning staff, and then the second being more opened up to the engineering and fire department as well. But in terms of the applicant's presentation, I think it probably makes sense to have their presentation just in the special land use portion, if
Okay.
comfortable with that.
Thank you. So item number 2 is case 24-005, Skilkin Gold Sheets, Premier DeQuinder 2 LLC, Special Land Use Request Recommendation. A request by applicant Skilkin Gold on behalf of property owner Premier DeQuinder 2 LLC to construct a gasoline fueling station, convenience store, and drive-through restaurant, including a 6,139 square foot convenience store and drive-through restaurant building and a 4,786.7 square foot canopy with 12 fueling pumps. The site is Zone C-1, General Business District. Gasoline filling stations and drive-through establishments require special land use approval and a public hearing with the Planning Commission in the C1 district in accordance with Article 12, Chapter 3 of the Van Buren Township zoning ordinance. The site includes 15.95 acres of property on parcels V 12583041990001001 and V 12583041990001714 at the southwest corner of Ecorse Road and Haggerty Road. We first have up a presentation by our township staff. Director Power?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I will defer most of the detailed review comments to our planning consultant, Gage Belko with McKenna. However, I'd first like to just provide some overview of the project and what we're here to review tonight. This first action is identified as a special land use consideration, and I, again, want to refer to the site location at the southwest corner of Haggerty and Ecorse Road, as everybody knows now. But I'll just have this image on the screen while I speak, and then we'll have our planning consultant go over his points, and I'll go through some other images. I just want to note that with your application tonight, there is a notarized planning and zoning application, a purchase agreement, a letter from the attorney representing this company, reports from our planning consultant, township engineer, and deputy fire chief or fire marshal, a report that I had transmitted as part of our internal review process, a copy of our public hearing notice, and submittals from the applicant, which include, many of these are electronic because of the size of the files, but there's an 18-page site plan sheet set, site plan review response letter from Stonefield Engineering, a 13-page architectural plan set from Sheets, a 5-page lighting plan set, a 76-page traffic impact study, so there was a traffic impact study, and then there are some later submittals that were added in. Today, we received an email explanation of the data used in justifying the requested waiver from what I'm calling before order station stacking requirements. You'll see one of the comments in the planner's report was related to shoring up the required stacking prior to getting to the order station and the drive-through, as well as more data to support that waiver, which are tables provided by the applicant that describe the wait times for these uses. Gasoline stations are today a special land use, as are drive-through uses. Up until about 2 years ago, gas stations were not special land uses in the township. This planning commission and the Board of Trustees adopted a set of ordinance text amendments that actually made gasoline filling stations special land uses. So prior to today's review, every gasoline station that had come in up through 2022 was, if they were on a site that was zoned C1 or C2, they were permitted by right. And we actually made that a more detailed review process to address some of the concerns you heard here. It's a more specific review for gasoline stations with development standards. So there's actually more stringent review requirements now than there were in the past. And so the first set of items you will address as a planning commission will be whether the proposed gasoline station use and the proposed convenience store with drive-through use meet general criteria for special land use approval, as well as specific development standard criteria for those uses. And so our planning consultant will go through the report on that aspect of the project. I just did want to provide a little bit of that context that there's now special land use requirements for gasoline stations, and there have been for many years for drive-throughs. You'll hear, I think in some of the analysis, some response to some of the concerns that were addressed, but I will otherwise turn it over to Gage Belko, our planning consultant, to go through the planning findings on the special land use before we get into the applicant's presentation and then consider taking action on that part of it. So I'll defer from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Power. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't think I need to introduce the project to you, so I'll dive right into our special land use approval analysis. Going into these comments, item 1, we do find that the proposed uses will promote the use of land in a socially and economically desirable manner. The restaurant and the gas station will be located in close proximity to nearby industrial uses and, of course, the I-275 entrance and exit ramps. The proposed land use is aligned with the uses that are permissible in the general commercial district, and we do find that they promote the desired development and economic vitality that is planned for this area and is compatible with recent development trends. We also find, item 2, that this is necessary for the public convenience at this location, given its strategic location near the freeway, providing the drive-through use, multiple EV charging stations, and a new state-of-the-art facility. We do feel that this meets the standard for serving the public at a convenient location. Similarly, we do find that this proposed uses, they both are surrounded by predominantly industrial developments. Although most of this property will remain undeveloped for the time being, we find that its situation near other industrial uses, the existing ITC corridor to the south, as well as some just generally vacant undeveloped land. With the addition of these significant green belts, we've been going through site modifications to respect the existing drain. We do find that this proposed uses will be compatible with the surrounding area. And as well, speaking to some of the conversations that the planning team has been having with the developers, moving the building back, providing a lot of pedestrian accessibility, positioning the canopy to the rear of the site, and overall improvements to the circulation, we do find that this is designed and located to best serve the public health, safety, and welfare to the extent that they can do, and maintaining ordinance compliance with all of our access requirements. We don't find that there will be any impact to public service capacity in this area. Of course, the developer will work with the township engineer to meet any utility requirements as well as stormwater management. We don't find that this will cause injury or otherwise diminish property values in the area. As well, we recognize that this development does add impervious surface area and involves some removal of some wetlands. The applicant is mitigating this by adding significant landscaping and buffers to the site. This project also proposes a dozen EV charging stations, which will help support the township's progress toward supporting electric vehicles. And provided that all of our ordinance standards are met through the site plan review process, we find that this will adequately support the natural environment. Whether this is within the powers set forth to subject to this review to special land use consideration, gas stations and drive-throughs are well within the provisions of uses, as Mr. Power mentioned. And we find that they are in harmony with the purpose and intent of the overall C1 General Business District. And the last general consideration for special land use review is that it is a valid exercise of the township's police power, which it is. Drive-throughs are, like Mr. Power said, they are special land use. They have been for a while now, and they're subject to a few specific development standards, including the distance to intersections, which we find is compliant, direct ingress and egress to a paved major thoroughfare, which is provided as well, with drives along E-Course and Haggerty. Lighting and illumination and reflecting into adjacent zoning district or residential zoning areas. While there are no abutting residential zoning districts, there are some residential uses across the street. However, the positioning of the canopy behind the building, the drive-through order station to the east, closer to Haggerty Road, should effectively screen excessive light from spilling over into those residential areas. We do note that there are some illumination issues that are still being worked out through the site plan review process. And with regard to the proximity of the uses to places of congregation, such as schools, there are no schools or other places of congregation within 1,000 feet of this site. There are additional development standards for gasoline filling stations, but these overlap almost one-for-one with our site plan review standards, so we will address them then. But overall, provided that this project can meet the site plan review standards, which we'll talk about later, we do recommend that the Planning Commission recommends approval of the gas station and drive-through special land uses to the Township Board of Trustees, subject to site plan approval. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Power, do you have anything else?
No, Mr.
Special
Chair.
land use.
Nope.
Okay, is the developer?
Good evening, members of Planning Commission. Thank you for having me here tonight. Well, my name is David Bruckelmeyer. I'm with Sheets, and I would just like to take a couple of moments to introduce our brand a little bit. We're new to the area, and we have a pretty unique offering. So I'd like to take you through a little bit of who we are before we get into some of the site details. One of them's going to work. Okay, very good. So I think we're pretty familiar with the site. Again, on a larger parcel, 2.8 acres approximately developed. 1,639 square foot retail space, 6 fuel pumps, 12 fuel stations with a drive-through. A couple of things that set us apart from other restaurant, convenience store fuel stations. We have full section brick material that you can see in front of you here tonight. So we do some very high quality finishes. We do architectural awnings. It's a very architecturally sufficient building. We take a lot of pride in our landscaping on our sites. Every site is irrigated, and we just generally like to keep our sites looking nice and invest in good landscaping. As pointed out by staff here tonight, we've made a lot of efforts to make sure that this is pedestrian accessible, bike racks and things like that already incorporated into the site plan. Obviously, a lot of landscape buffering is discussed with a shrub row along the perimeter. And we're obviously going to be making a lot of improvements to the look of the intersection here. So a little bit more about who Sheetz is. So Sheetz was founded in 1952. It was started by Bob Sheetz and started out as really a convenience store deli carryout. It kind of grew organically, and into the 70s it expanded and then added fuel really in the 80s. We started to get into the fueling business. So what I would like to highlight is Sheetz started out as a restaurant and convenience store, and we still hold very true to those values today. We at current pace have 700 locations, and I would like to clarify that we are family-owned, family-operated. We do not have any kind of private equity involved in our business. Again, if you take a look at the left side of your screen, we have four-sided architecture. We don't have any kind of side of our building that does not look sufficient. So the same section goes all the way around the building, unlike a lot of other retail spaces. We provide 14 outdoor dining spaces so people can enjoy their meals outside. And then, of course, high-quality finishes that I already discussed. Again, highlighting our restaurant use, we have 30 interior seating spaces for customers to sit down and enjoy a meal or hop onto our free Wi-Fi and shoot an email out on their way. Sit down and enjoy a cup of coffee. Something unique that we pioneered, we have a touchpad ordering system inside of our location, which was kind of unique in the restaurant and convenience store space. And then, of course, something that sets our drive-thru apart is that it uses that same touchscreen. So you don't pull up to a Squawk Box and have to talk to someone. You pull up and use the iPad-style touchscreen and order just like you would inside, and you don't even have to talk to anybody. So it's something that really sets us apart in some of the innovations that we've put into our business. And highlighting the restaurant. We have a full kitchen, 24/7, 365. So anything you might want at 2 p.m. If you would like a breakfast sandwich, we have a breakfast sandwich and some hash browns, and that is still on the menu. Same thing, if you would like fried chicken at 8 a.m., you can get fried chicken at 8 a.m. So that's something just really unique that our offering has that's not offered somewhere in this market at current, and that's something that does set us apart. In addition to all of that, we have Sheetz Brothers Coffee Bar. So it's a specialty coffee. You can go and get espresso drinks and anything like that for people on the go. So we're not just a cup of normal drip coffee. We have more than that. We even have an espresso bar. In addition, if you take a look to the picture on the right, we have a massive convenience offering. Any kind of specialty drink you might want, it's here. Personal items, all kinds of things like that that people may need 24/7, 365 on the go. Sheetz is there to make that offering. A couple other things I'd like to highlight is a lot of the ways that we give back to the community. We'd love to be good neighbors, and our store managers get to know all of our neighbors when we're at an operating location. We give back to local charities and organizations and schools and things of that nature. We're very heavily involved in Special Olympics, and we'll go through a little bit more of that later. And then, of course, convenience, access, safety, all of these things are really critical to what Sheetz does. And especially from a safety standpoint, something that sets us apart from the industry is we have 60 high-definition cameras on every one of our sites. And it's not because we expect things to be needed all the time, but it's there for safety and security. So it protects, obviously, our employees 24/7, 365, and it is monitored by Sheetz employees 24/7, 365. Again, just something that puts us in the pioneer status in the C-store industry. And of course, we recycle a lot of materials that come into our site, so we take the time to sort all of our cardboard and our plastic and things like that to be good environmental stewards. We are Tesla's #1 third-party charging vendor in the country. And they are very interested in rolling out into the Southeast Michigan market with us. So we're excited to be able to offer some potential EV at this site. We have several partners that are very interested in the site. We often remediate sites that we come into. This site, it's not necessary, but sometimes we take over a site that needs some environmental work, and we take that on, and we make that step to invest in the community. And we also have a best-in-class monitoring for our UST system and our environmental standards. So we have a nearly 100% compliance with the EPA. Rarely do we have a blemish. I know that there's been some talk of some lawsuits that came out, and in fact, you know, there weren't any contaminations regarding that 2005 lawsuit. What it was really about was how we monitored a lot of our sites. And so that really kicked off a lot of innovations on the sheet side of things, and we are now 100% compliant. And again, landscaping and efficiency, we definitely take pride in landscaping and efficiency of our building. As you can see, we've worked with staff pretty heavily here to provide pretty dense landscape buffering on the site all the way around. And we're interested in making that big investment, including, you know, screening at the drive-through and things like that. So if you have any additional landscaping questions, I would be happy to answer those. And as was mentioned, there is some flooding issues on this property. We are aware of it, and we're working with our engineer, Stonefield, to mitigate some of that. There would be some areas on this property that are previously, or that are undeveloped that we would use to mitigate a lot of the floodplains. One other thing, this is a lot of data here that we could go through. We did submit this, and what I would like to point out about our drive-through is that it is not a Starbucks. It is certainly not a Chick-fil-A. It is nothing close to that kind of volume. Our best stores usually run about 10 an hour at lunch. So that's something that we can very much handle within a lot of our stacking. It's really not an issue. We rarely even have a line at our drive-through. Really what our drive-through is about is convenience for a customer. Maybe someone has their kids in their car, you know, after a baseball game, and they don't want to drag them out of the car to go in and get a bite to eat or something like that. It's there for that kind of customer. We're much more focused on having people come into the store and enjoy, you know, a meal in the store, and not so much focused on the drive-through. There it goes. So as part of this presentation, we took some time and we put together some renderings that show what our building would look like. And I really just want to highlight how this looks from the building, or from the perspective of Hagerty and eCourse looking at our building. You know, we do have that beautiful four-sided architecture that we've talked about. It presents really well from the corner with our canopy in the back, and that just gives you a good presentation view of what we expect to look like when we're constructed here, should we get approval. And this is just another view on eCourse Road, just taking a look at our building, focusing on the architecture and the landscaping. That's just another view. We can go back through these pictures as much as you may want, but this just gives you, again, another visual representation. We did take some time and prepare this. This is kind of our lighting plan at night. It is a pretty good representation from our lighting designer, just to give you an idea that we've taken some time and really put together a best-in-class lighting package here. And as was mentioned by staff, we have a couple of little details to work out on our lighting plan, which I'm sure we can sort out. We put all these on here. Again, just to wrap up, our request tonight is that you approve our special land use and our site plan approval, and I would be happy to answer any questions you have at this time. And if you don't have any other questions, I would like to run through a few clarification items and just address some of the members of the public that have made comments.
Go forth.
Okay, I'll go for it. So again, I highlighted the difference in sheets. I know that there's a lot of thoughts around, honestly, the entire country, you know, why are gas stations here? I want to highlight that we are a restaurant convenience store, and really we are uniquely set up to handle EV in the future. First off, we're planning 12 spaces for the future here already. But when EV rolls out and continues to roll out in the country, we have clean restrooms. We have a nice restaurant for people to sit down for 20 minutes to charge their car. That's something that sets Sheetz apart. I would just like to highlight that. We are not the dinosaur, and we never will be. We're going to continue to evolve our business. We really do invest in the community. Every store has funds available for needs in the community. Say, you know, a local organization needs help with maybe the baseball team, and they need new jerseys or they need new equipment. That's something that Sheetz can invest in the community. And that's just on a store-by-store basis. In addition to that, Sheetz spends a lot of money donating to food banks that are local. We like to make sure that we help the community with food insecurity. That's something that is very heavily focused on at Sheetz. And then in addition, every state that we operate in, we are partners with the local Special Olympics. So those are some of our really big partners. And for instance, here in Southeast Michigan, we are partnered with Forgotten Harvest. So we really do like to give back and make investments in our communities. One other thing that I'd really like to highlight here and clarify, this site is not set up to accommodate large trucks. We will be able to take our own deliveries. We do not accommodate large over-the-road truckers. We do not have high-flow diesel. We will not have showers. We will not have any kind of those accommodations. And we probably would not want them coming to our site anyway and blocking it up. So we really do not intend and will not be able to service that kind of customer. I just wanted to make sure I was clear with the board on that. Again, we highlighted that we have done a traffic impact study, and we do feel that the access that's provided on this plan is appropriate and safe. My engineer could run you through all the 76 pages of details, but we do feel confident in the traffic study. The last thing I'd really like to highlight is that we do purchase sites, and in fact, this site we are going to purchase as Sheetz. So we aren't leasing this one. We do lease about half of our properties. That's really common in the commercial real estate world. Sometimes we can't get someone to sell and they're only interested in leasing and things like that, but we really do buy roughly 50% of our sites, including this one.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners? Questions, comments?
Mike, I do.
Go for it.
So how, at what depth, I mean, obviously we haven't gone through an engineering review, so some of the questions that come up might be addressed in this engineering review. Should we just ask them anyway? Anything related?
We can wait on that end of things. This is more for the special land use approval.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
One of the conditions for granting a special land use is that a facility can be adequately served by public services and facilities without diminishing or adversely affecting public services to the existing land uses in the area. There's a big drain on that property, and I know that some members of the public have brought that up. It's McClary Drain. We hear about that drain in quite a few of our meetings.
Yes.
And so if there was some engineering reporting on it that was germane to the discussion about public utility, I'm assuming the drain is a public utility, it might be good for us to hear it before we go into much discussion on the special land use, if the engineer feels that's appropriate.
Mr. Lepick, do you have that on the McClary Drain?
Yeah, the McClary Drain is a county drain. So their stormwater management plan, any flow issues typically is dealt with the county drain commissioner. Part of their engineering plan includes stormwater management calculations, and they're providing a detention basin that outlets into the county drain and does require county approval and a permit. Did you have a specific question, or?
I didn't have a specific question, but since we had the applicant's entire presentation, and I felt that maybe an engineering discussion on, the adequacy of the public utilities, it might fit in. But maybe it's a discussion for the site plan review. I know that in a preliminary site plan review, the engineering is also very preliminary.
We did have quite a bit of comments just to, at this stage preliminarily, at this point, we recommend the applicant and the design engineer begin their conversations with the county so that by the time we get to final site plan and final engineer reviews, that they have all of that buttoned up before we come back here. So all of that, all of their work around the drain, they've got one driveway crosses it. I believe they've got a water service coming in that crosses it, sanitary sewer crosses it. Which is all, there's standards for all the design around that. Flow issues and flooding isn't necessarily they wouldn't get into that with their design or their, issues that arise from downstream, because that drain, goes all the way through the township, keeps going east, and eventually goes to Lower Rouge River. So there's a lot of, any flooding issues that's, on the county, it's a county drain. So there's not, I don't know what the county wouldn't require them necessarily to do anything. What the county requires them to do is provide stormwater management that outlets at a required rate. So that based on calculations of, capacity calculations of the drain.
Would it be safe to say there's nothing immediately standing out that would say this isn't gonna work? It can't be engineered?
Engineering, they've designed it per the county and township standards.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
In a moment, in a moment.
I'm glad you asked.
Okay. Any other questions for concerning the land use, special land use?
Yeah, I do.
Treasurer Bob.
I have a problem wanting to think about a special land use. I mean, last August, I saw what the flooding did at that intersection. We also know that Ashley Capital actually cleaned part of that drain farther into Romulus because they couldn't get county to do it. So now they're gonna be adding more because there's so much hard surface. And I'm gonna have all this extra water. My basement flooded. I had 4 foot of water in my basement. I saw 4 foot of water for cars that could not get through that intersection. I mean, it looks like a nice gas station. I like the restaurant part, but I haven't heard anybody say what the traffic study said. I haven't heard anybody say, yep, everything is right and that's gonna work. So for me to grant special approval for something that I don't even know if it's gonna work. I don't think you know that it's gonna work yet.
So
I
if
mean, it's not that it's not a beautiful building.
Sure, absolutely. That's a very valid concern. So we have taken a look at our stormwater, and our detention is going to comply with those county standards, and it is going to release our runoff slowly over a 24-hour period, which is how that we mitigate for installing impervious surface. So we are going to meet all those standards to make sure that we're not just rushing a lot of water into the county drain. We've also taken a look at the county drain. We've been studying it, and we know that it is an issue. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt. And I think that's why we've got some of those floodplain mitigation areas where we're going to cut material out and build in detention on our property that's just for the floodplain. So it would, the material we're going to build up to build the site at this location, we would have to mitigate that on our property. So we'll have to take cubic yards of soil out and launch them off the site in order to accommodate, that additional capacity that the floodway needs. So we've taken a look at all that. We've engaged a hydraulic engineer. We're going to go through all those in our final engineering calculations. I'm sure my engineer Stonefield could run you through quite a bit of information on it that's technical, but in general, we have studied the drain. We do know that it is certainly an issue, and we're going to work with Eagle and the county to make sure that we do not cause a bad impact on this drain. From a TIS perspective, I'm sure staff's taken a look at this TIS, and we've engaged a traffic engineer that's local, that knows the area, to do the traffic study, and they're confident that our access is appropriate and safe. I'm sure staff may be able to provide, if we would like to answer some engineering questions of this, we could go through that a little bit here, if that's appropriate.
Well, while we're already talking about it, there's 2 issues, obviously. We're just talking storm and traffic, right? So I guess I do, starting with the traffic real quick, because I did look at the site plan. And I mean, both these roads are 45 miles an hour. I mean, they're pretty quick, and they're, they reduce down to 1 lane and, in a lot of places. Has there been any discussion about a bit of a decel lane? Because it looks like you're just going right into a radius to turn in. I haven't seen, is it anything like that? Can anything like that be provided?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask staff if there is a presentation on the traffic report as part of the presentation by staff in the preliminary site plan review. Maybe that would answer our questions.
I didn't see anything written up, but that doesn't mean Dan doesn't have it.
Well, it was 75 pages. It's maybe a summary.
Sure. So we did have some comments on the traffic impact study, and we actually recommended that we set up a separate meeting and request the applicant redo the traffic study based on our recent experience with traffic studies done by Ashley Capital and other developments in the area. We felt that the traffic volumes that were presented were lower than what Ashley Capital put in for that intersection. So we didn't have a lot of comments in the letter. We basically recommended that we set up a separate meeting and recommend the applicant redo the study based on some comments that we had and traffic volumes that we've seen at that intersection. And then with any traffic study, since they're all county roads, we would also, they need to be presented to the county in order, any changes that would need to be done would ultimately have to be on the county, and or the direction would come from the county.
Through the chair.
Director
If I may
Power?
Also, just, I agree with everything the township engineer said. We received the traffic study. There were some conclusive statements in the study, but as the traffic engineer said, we need to make sure we understand this goes through a process that's ultimately under the purview of the county. And it's often the case that at the preliminary site plan stage, because we haven't really gone through the county engineering review yet, there's not a complete, final, sealed, totally approved by all entities version of the traffic study. But that doesn't mean we don't want to have questions answered about it at this stage. It's just to say that there's going to be more feedback loop once the county gets engaged at this first preliminary site plan step. The county will weigh in on deceleration and taper lanes and those kinds of geometrics of the site. The traffic study conclusion that was presented supported the project, but there are, of course, some things we want to make sure are cleaned up in terms of the data that are provided, that's provided as part of it. If I could bounce back to drains also, just to provide a very broad comment on the drainage. The way that this site is designed is to handle its own drainage and then to have an outlet that ties into the overall stormwater drain network. And the McClary is, I apologize, I'm not projecting onto the screen very well tonight, but this did come up earlier in the year with the Ashley Crossroads North Phase 2 site as well. We have to look at that broad view that the township engineer referenced, which is that many small drains within Van Buren Township that have been experiencing issues tie into the McGlary drain, which ties into the lower branch of the Rouge. What we may be experiencing in major flooding events at that intersection may be the result of many pressure points down the way, and these individual sites are not necessarily causing those backup issues if they're designed properly. So those are, of course, things we have to make sure we're watching very closely moving forward through the project. And of course, it does speak to the question of capacity. If there's a major drainage obstruction downstream, as was the case with Ashley, if they've done some work downstream, some of these sites have to factor that in and see if there needs to be some mitigation work to go into serving the site. But in this case, we're mostly watching that this site meets township and county engineering standards for drainage.
I would also, if I may, I would also be willing to put as a condition upon our approval tonight that we work with staff to finalize and have an approved traffic study with staff, if that's amenable to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, just as a comment, the requirement, the specific requirement is that it can be adequately served by public services, not that it currently is.
Okay.
So it may or may not be adequately served today, but I think what we have found over the years is that developing a site and working on the drainage and installing detention ponds tends to improve the drainage situation, not make it worse. I don't think I can't think of one where we've come back and heard that the development made the drainage worse. So I definitely feel that the drainage is an issue, but when I asked engineering, so nothing insurmountable, that was, can it be fixed? And I believe the engineering's answer was it probably can be.
Through the chair, yeah, we go through pretty extensive review of individual site drainage. And we have some engineering requirements for maintaining all of the flow, or treating all of the flow on your site, not flooding your neighbors, neighboring properties. And we usually ask for, property line to property line, you show where the existing flow is going. And once you understand where existing runoff is going, then you can provide a well-thought-out proposed plan that takes care of all of that, takes care of your site's drainage, and then you need to design a stormwater management system. They have an open detention pond per township standards, which actually are more stringent than county standards due to flooding issues that you've had in the past. So that was updated in 2014. The township does have this a more stringent release rate. The county updated theirs a couple of years ago. They have a different formula for calculating the rate at which your stormwater releases from your site. The township is more stringent than that. So, yeah, by developing your site and treating your impervious area in your management plan, you technically are improving the drainage in your site up to, we designed to what's called the 100-year storm. Obviously, climate change, we do experience harder, faster storms. So anything over 100-year storms, individual sites, the stormwater management facilities are designed to just overflow and go where they used to go. So anything over a 100-year storm, we don't put that on the site developers, but just get that out there. I'm not sure what the tropical storm coming through here was yet, but we were tracking it.
Anybody else? Comments, questions?
I think I could save them for the next round.
Okay.
Yeah, I have some for the next round,
Yeah.
but maybe not so much on the specific special use.
Right.
Only, I guess, one question for staff. It sort of sounds to me like the traffic impact study is, you've reviewed it and found it to be maybe not entirely sufficient at this time, maybe you need some more data. What does the status of that traffic impact study do with regard to our ability to recommend or deny the special land use request? It feels like there's a piece of information that maybe hasn't been fully considered with regard to the specific criteria of the special use.
With the question that comes up with a special land use review, it pertains to whether the site has the surrounding traffic capacity or will have capacity in the road network to serve the site as designed. It can be a little bit hard to forecast what would be the best case scenario at a place like this, and you balance best geometrics and site design practices with what's inevitably going to be a pretty high traffic volume use, and that's going to be part of what gets reviewed with this traffic study. It may say that turning left out of the full service driveways will be a challenge, or we'll have some low level of service, high wait times, that kind of thing. But whether the roads can actually handle a high traffic volume use at a site like this that's zoned commercially, I think it's been anticipated, and there are certain safeguards in our zoning code that address how to best design sites to have traffic safety built into them. So we have some standards you'll hear about later in our review with respect to spacing from intersections of roads for the driveways, and the applicant had to demonstrate the need to have 2 driveways instead of 1. Those kinds of things are all part of the site plan review. There is a question about the capacity of the road network, for sure. But at this point, I don't think we see any, we still have to get better data about all the traffic counts from the new development that's occurred to the north, but there haven't been any reasons to think that they can't be ironed out in the final version of the traffic study, and that this plan can't be supported provide traffic in the area.
Fair enough.
One question I have, the one picture that's in the McKenna plant, or shows a large area that's the subject site, and the construction is only to be taken up of one corner. What is the deal with the rest of that site?
Would you like, applicant like to speak
Happy to
that?
answer that. You know, at this point, we have done some engineering review, and that site, the rest of it is full of floodplains and wetlands. It would be extremely difficult to develop, which is why we've chosen this particular corner. It is the most developable piece of the property, and we have no intentions for the rest of the property at present time.
I understand the present, but my concern is the future is with that. So when we approve this, we're approving that entire site. Is that correct? Okay.
Through the chair.
I believe
And-
there would still
and the-
be a site plan approval process.
And that was
after
actually
that.
going to be my same question is, I haven't seen anything other than maybe that, which I didn't really look at that thoroughly, is there one site or two sites? And is this just, if this is one large site, it would be nice to have a drawing that showed the entire site, not just the portion you're developing, so that you can identify the wetland areas, because that's obviously going to be impacted by this design. And just so that we can get a commitment from you, you're saying that it's not going to be developed or disturbed in any way, because we do have a lot of wetland, a lot of wildlife that inhabits that wetland, that if you could, like that, yeah, if you could delineate the areas that you're going to save and never develop and make that statement on drawings or in a letter, or if that's
As a conservation easement, is that what you're asking about?
potentially, yes.
I don't, yeah. Could I ask just a
If I can commit to never, the property never being developed. Here's what I can tell you. We don't,
right.
we don't intend any expansion with this plan tonight.
Right.
We intend to develop this portion of the property as shown up here. And as stated earlier, the rest of the property is going to be exceptionally difficult and expensive to develop. Wetlands, floodplains, there would be a substantial amount of mitigation required. It would take a very high bar to get it done. And I think anything else would have to come back before the board for obviously site plan approval.
I have a related question specifically to the special use, not to the site plan.
Okay.
The subject site is listed as either 13 or 15 acres. That's, needs to be ironed out, my understanding is. And the applicant is planning on developing only a corner of the parcel. The special land use, my understanding is, would go to the entire parcel.
Well,
What would happen if what happens to the special land use if the parcel is then subdivided? Does the special land use stay with the subdivided parcel? Maybe our McKenna consultant could answer. I just want to know what I'm getting into.
Special land uses run with the land, as they say. So whether future combinations or splits happen, that would be the approved land use.
Through the chair. I guess I want to know, like, you can say that, you know, the zoning moves with it, but we're not talking about typical zoning, we're talking about wetlands.
Right.
Right? So they would have to accommodate the wetlands. And my understanding is that's not very easy to do, but I'll let you speak to that. This is typical how any site like this would be developed. And we're trying to talk about wetlands right now when we're just trying to get the very first step in the water here, and then let them jump through the hoops of fire to get it done. But please express.
For wetland, and yeah, maybe Stonefield can help out, but so wetland, if you disturb or remove any wetlands, you have to go through the state. And I believe if you remove one unit of wetlands, you have to put back somewhere 1.5 somewhere else. So that's through the Eagle in the state. So if that's full of wetlands, you know, on the south side of their site, that'd be pretty difficult to mitigate, I believe. But there's which I believe you guys are getting through this project, the Eagle Inland Waters and Wetland Permit. So that's a pretty extensive permit through the state. that your question? Or okay.
Yes, thank you.
And then through the chair, there are two parcels, and there's a little bit of discrepancy as to the size of those. Now, if where they're gonna build on the one parcel is only what that is, then you've got the second parcel. So usually we make them combine a parcel. So I think we need to get that straightened out first, is what are they gonna do and how are they impacting that second parcel?
If I may, through the chair, obviously these are just graphic representations. These aren't the real parcel lines. As Treasurer Bud mentions, there will need to be some sort of a lot combination. And, if it suits the commission, there may also be a condition to split a portion of the land at the outset so that the special land use only pertains to that portion of the site being developed. I don't know, that's something I just came up with, so.
And I personally, I really think that needs to be settled before we grant anything, because nobody knows, and I should have brought my zoning book down to show where it splits, because I'm,
Is that, so on the public hearing notes, through the chair, excuse me.
Yes.
There's a, and I guess I have to ask staff, is that a representation of the split?
Those are those are the existing parcels.
So it looks like, I mean, from my rough view, it looks like both of the partials will run through the development site.
I agree, because yes, because the subject site is running like more through a strip through the middle rather than
Yeah.
just, right. So I think we need to get that straightened out first.
Chair, if I may, the application is to combine those parcels into a single parcel.
Combine into one. Now, when they combine into one, can they split that again? Or once it's combined, it stays as a combined unit?
There are limits to the number of combinations and splits that can happen. Overall, I'm not sure of the history of this parcel, but they are limited. But theoretically, splitting that would result in two parcels with the same approved special land use, if that's what we're talking about.
But maybe he needs to look at recreating a parcel that just is where he's gonna build. And then the other parcel would pick up whatever it turns out that the acreage is that's left. But I think we definitely need to know what we're granting a special approval on, because I don't think it's only the one parcel. It kind of looks to me like he's gonna have to have some of the second parcel, but he doesn't need a lot of it.
I think I understand. So, but to the chair, if I could present another vantage point, I think one of the protections that's offered by having this be all combined in one parcel now is that as soon as you offer up something that could be split, there could be other development potential on that second parcel. And at least for the near term, it appears that this is the only development plan that's in place for this entire 15 acres, two existing parcels. One item that I would like to look into more, and I don't want to get bogged down in a academic zoning discussion tonight, but if the special, I agree completely, the special land use runs with the land, but the terminology of running with the land, I'd have to go back and look into a little bit more. I don't know that translates if there's a split in a new parcel ID, because it runs with the, it may run with the parcel itself, not necessarily with the overarching land. I'd have to look at that part of it. But one thing I was just offering is that with a combined parcel with the development limited in one area of that site, there's no splits that would offer up the remainder to another developer in the near term.
Okay. The other question I have concerning that, the wetlands are to the south, is that correct, of that site where I see the colored areas?
The colored areas are actually proposed floodplain mitigation.
Okay.
So those are not wetlands. The wetlands are actually highlighted in the green dots with hatching. So you can see strewn about the site, there are a substantial number of wetlands throughout, making the other portions of the property very undesirable to develop, which is why we've avoided them.
So the portions to the south, you're utilizing those as part of your stormwater management, correct?
Floodplain management,
Well, I mean-
floodwater management.
Right, so in
Yeah.
the engineering design, you're maybe, grading such that you're moving some of it in that direction to be seen, maybe? It sounds like you're gonna use some of that to control some of the stormwater runoff and potentially even into those drain areas.
So our stormwater management is going to be to the north,
Right.
well, I guess to the west side of our proposed site. And then these portions would just be to mitigate the impact to the floodplain for the corner of the C-store.
Through the chair. I think they're kind of two separate items. The stormwater management is for site runoff. And that's any site, when it rains, any runoff collected by the site's, storm sewers and catch basins will go to the stormwater management detention basin. I believe the other, floodplain management areas that are colored are more for, they're in the 100-year floodplain. So if that's from the drain and that's not necessarily from their site. So they're creating additional floodplain areas to help with storage of the 100-year floodplain from the nearest water course, which that floodplain comes from. So that's from backing up of the waterway due to development or, blockage, or when we get a 100-rain storm, a 100-year storm, the 100-year floodplain fills up like a bathtub, no matter, and it's not because of any one of the properties, it's just that's how the FEMA did a study, and that's because of blockages downstream, bridges, constricted channelways, all the way from start to end. That's how the floodplain, it's like a big bathtub. So when it rains, if we get a 100-year storm, theoretically, the waterways will fill up to that 100-year elevation. So they're creating pockets of flood storage areas, I guess you could call it, to help with that. That it's not necessarily related to their stormwater management system. I think they're two separate items.
Because that relate, if I may?
Yeah.
Because that relates to the stormwater management of the developed area of the site.
Correct.
And the wetlands are not being developed, and therefore they don't need to be engineered at this time. It's only
Correct.
the developed area.
Yep.
My only remaining concern, I feel like the specific design, the specific requirements for special land use for both the drive-through and the gasoline filling station, I'm a little concerned about the stacking on the drive-through, but I think it can still be done as a site plan review. We haven't had a chance to really review your numbers yet. Thank you for providing them this afternoon, but we need some time to digest it.
Sure.
My concern is in granting a special land use, if the smallest granularity that we can grant a special land use on is a parcel. This is a 15-acre parcel. That's 15 acres of potential gas stations. Now, if it's one parcel, there's only going to be one gas station on it. But if the special land use travels with the split land instead of remaining just on the initial parcel, we could be inadvertently recommending to the township board that there's 15 acres of land that could be potentially wetlands mitigated and turned into gas stations. And that's really my only concern.
Yeah, and even in Vidia's letter, she said discrepancy in the site area noted on the site plan and the assessors must be corrected. I don't know why it wasn't corrected or why it wasn't said how we were going to correct it and where the building site was in relationship with those two parcels. And that's the part that I'm having a problem with. And the fact that there has been so much trouble with flooding there, that will they be able to use that second parcel, whatever, to handle their floodplain? I don't know.
If I may, through the chair, just breezing through the ordinance, or reading through, there is a condition that maintenance of site design is required as a condition of special land use approval. So they're not just proposing to develop a single portion of the site. They're also proposing not to develop a portion of the site. And they would need to maintain that site design as proposed as a condition of special land use approval. That is, it says all plans, specifications, and statements submitted become part of the conditions of your special land use approval. Approving this does not confer approval necessarily for future gas stations, because that would represent a highly intense use change, a significant change to the site design itself. You know, whether they're splitting the land or not is almost inconsequential when we're looking at what they're proposing right now, which is essentially preservation of that portion of the site. So any future changes to that portion would require significant review and approval.
Okay.
Okay.
That doesn't satisfy what it said. I keep looking at the word "must be addressed." It's not addressed in my mind.
Yes.
Certainly through some of the engineering review that we've started to do, that has come up. We will certainly address the discrepancy within the lot sizes and things like that as we move through final engineering.
Through the chair, just, I'm sorry, I don't want to belabor the acreage question. I think it's a good question, and I don't know if we covered what I think the initial response was from the applicant. There, I believe was, there are meets and bounds legal descriptions that tell you how big each parcel is, and I'm not a surveyor, I don't really understand those. But I think the issue with the 13 acre versus 15.95 acre discrepancy was it that there was an acreage listed in the two discrete parcel legal descriptions that did not add up to the meets and bounds measurement, but the meets and bounds measurement is really the more accurate measurement, and so it's really, it may just be a typing issue with the stated acres on the two parcel legal descriptions. I believe it may have been as simple as that from
Yeah, and certainly when we combine the parcels, that would get sorted out. We'd get a new legal description and we would get that, you know, recertified.
You got that?
Right, I understand what he's saying.
Okay.
Does it help?
I don't know. Okay. Do we have anything else, commissioners?
I'd kind of like to take a straw poll as to whether or not it would be appropriate to table this request until such time as the acreage question could be handled. I don't want to deny it, you know, because I feel like it's very close, but I know that our other commissioner has some concerns with
I know.
regard to the lots sizing and splits. You know, in a denial, I don't want to deny it. I don't want to propose that.
More information.
But tabling it until more information. But I would have a question for staff that, you know, would we then be able to go on with the preliminary site plan review if we did table the special use request? Or do we have to have the recommendation before we can move on?
I procedurally don't see a problem with having the analysis of the site plan at this time. If the planning commission is comfortable with that, I certainly think it helps to highlight some of the questions that have come up and address some things. But it would be premised on the notion that you're tabling both items essentially, because it's the site plan and
Just for information.
special land use rely on each other. So, but I don't see an issue going through the site plan analysis.
Okay.
May I offer a condition? I mean, we would be willing to impose a condition upon ourselves on record, and we could come up with an agreement with the city and staff post this meeting that we would not develop the western portion of this property for any fuel station in perpetuity. We could put that on title, have it, you know, look literally tied to the land that would not be developed for any future fuel use to the western side. Now, we would need to wait until we got through final engineering to finalize that agreement, because the floodplain mitigation and things like that have to get worked out. If a conservation easement puts you at ease for the floodplains or for the wetlands, I think we would also be willing to do that. Again, we have no intention to develop the western portion of this site with any fuel station in the future, and
If you own it.
What was that?
That's if you own it in the future.
Well, I think if we tie it to the land and put it on title and make the city a third party, that would give the city standing to refute any future fuel station on the western portion of the parcel.
I think I would rather go with Jeff's to postpone this until everything is worked out. I don't want to take it to the board this way.
That's our,
I would agree.
for clarity for the audience, our board liaison for the Board of Trustees. We're being asked for a recommendation, to give our recommendation to the Board of Trustees. And if our liaison doesn't feel good about taking it to the greater Board of Trustees, then I do have to respect that, I feel.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any further comments here at the commission? Okay, we did have a couple of questions out in the audience. He had one first, and Mr. Kaus, is that? Foley, Mr. Foley.
651 Jackson.
Yep.
I don't know if I muddied the waters when I was mentioning this storm drain. You know, the worst thing that can happen here is going to be a fuel spill, whether it's gas or diesel. That drain is right in front of there, whether it goes to their detention pond or not. You know, we've talked about 100-year floods. We've had 400-year floods in the last 30 years, so it's not a 100-year flood. You know, the FEMA will call it a 100-year flood. Here in Belleville, we just had one a few years ago. That was a 100-year flood. We know there's water issues around this township, you know, but it does go down. It comes up, it goes down. You know, the only thing I am looking at on this proposal, and the building does look nice, it would be great to have another place to eat. Yeah, they're not gonna propose developing this as a fuel station, but maybe something else is going there. That basin being right out front and the amount of land that it can potentially contaminate is something that you really need to consider and look at. I would suggest who's ever voting on this, drive down there and look at it for yourself. You know, don't take it from me, don't take it from a developer, go look at it. You can walk right up to it, walk around, you're gonna get wet, but go look at this property. You know, it's, there's a lot going on there. I would not table it, I would deny it.
Thank you. Yes.
My name is Sam Salami, 41358 Ecorse. And if I can supplement the discussion on the wetlands, by state law, the applicant has indicated that they will mitigate the damage to the wetlands. You cannot mitigate damages to wetland. You cannot disturb it. You cannot touch it. And even there's legislation pending that you cannot even replace it. That will potentially open the township for a lawsuit by the Department of Natural Resources and also lawsuit by private citizens. Wetlands are protected and they cannot be disturbed. Mitigating is not even an option. I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the commission, and I hope that you will take that into consideration. And I think it was very plausible and very important question, because it has happened before where an approval was given, and I'm not talking necessarily about this particular applicant, where they started one phase of the project and developing it, and then later on, after they got the special use permit, they went ahead and developed the remaining section, and which made it much easier for them. And I think Paragon versus the city of Brighton is a case in point, where the applicant was able to sue the city and get back and was able to develop the property after it initially committed that it was not going to. So I hope that you will take that into consideration. And I concur with the previous speaker that I think it should be denied, not tabled. Thank you for your consideration.
Mr. Salome, the Honorable Mr. Salome, I want to thank you for your reference here. Folks, this is a well-respected judge that you just heard from. Well-respected. You know, so take that point seriously. More importantly, I'd like to ask you, how many fuel stations are there here in this township that abut to a residential property from which you heard here in the audience, who has great concerns about and should not be ignored, like the representative from McKenna just basically brushed on, stating, well, the abutting properties are all industrial in nature, mainly, completely ignoring the fact there are 3 or 4 properties, one of which is in the audience today, expressing great concerns about this project. The second to that, I mean, how many more fuel, what is the demand here? You know, all you're doing is simply shifting, you know, people going from sites that are in development currently, existing stores, to other stores that are locally owned and operated, to somebody that's outside of the state. Again, I welcome all competition, but it needs to make sense for the greater good, for the community. You should always focus on the community. That's the oath all of you have taken. Not just because this property is zoned accordingly. It's almost like trying to, you know, jam a peg here that doesn't fit. This property is full of wetland. As many speakers have already mentioned, this is a fuel station. We've owned and operated fuel stations for many, many years. Spills do happen. They happen. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. Could you imagine what would happen if somebody just blatantly left, you know, overflowed some fuel that got right into these wetlands that are really abutting this property as well? There are mitigating efforts, but as you just heard, you can't mitigate this. This is by state law, so I hope you respect the law. That's the oath you've taken, and I strongly encourage you to not table this, but deny it for the greater good of the community. Thank you.
Ali Ahmad, 41358 Ecorse Road. I just want to show you a picture for everybody here. Look at the date, please.
Yeah.
Look at the date. It was August 23rd, last year. This was right on the corner of Ecorse and Haggerty. This is Ecorse, right there, on the corner.
I saw all of
I'm just
them.
telling you,
I know.
I've seen it.
I saw
Okay,
them.
now,
Yep.
can you imagine this happens if the tanks are in there?
Right.
Okay?
Sir, we need you back at the podium, please, for the volume.
Power, could he put that on the overhead projector?
Yeah, he could put that on the overhead.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
No, no. This is the picture right here.
Yeah, I'll show you.
Mr. Chair, sorry, Mr. Ahmad, I wanted to have that put onto the projector so that the
Okay.
rest of the audience could
Go ahead,
see
go
it.
ahead, go ahead. This is the date right there. Can you imagine if this happened? This is the corner where you're building the whole station right here. This was, yes. So just to let you know what you're dealing with. Now, can you imagine the station's there and the tanks are there? You go ahead and deal with it. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, could I ask this previous speaker just tell me what the date was on that photo?
August 23rd, 2023. Yes, August 23rd, 2023. That's the date.
I don't want to hurt these other guys.
Michael Berry, 11175 Haggerty Road. Just to touch base on the development, we're still referring to a site that's over 15 acres. I understand that today they're looking to develop one corner of that property, but over in Shelby Township, there was a Walmart that was developed. Okay, I have the address for you guys. And there is a moratorium in place in Shelby Township. The address is 122 23 Mile Road, Shelby Township. Gas stations were not permitted in Shelby Township per the moratorium. What they did is they got this, just like you guys are approving today, they're gonna approve the entire site. They backdoored the gas station. They came back later on and they got their approval. So right now, yeah, they gave you a station on the corner. Yeah, thank you for touching base about the private equity thing. Well, if you go on Crexi, LoopNet, or CoStar, you can find at least 10 sites that, yes, they put back up, they build them up, and they put them back for lease. They don't own the property. So they don't care about the rest of the property. And if they give you that corner, they get what they want, they're not going to develop the rest of it. So you guys are looking at a site that if you give them the approval, you're giving the approval for the entire site, okay? And they could come back and do whatever they want, unless they put something in writing, which I doubt they are gonna agree to that. Say, oh, we're not gonna develop the rest of the site. No one buys 16 acres to just do a little corner and then keep it all for preservation and wetlands and everything else. There's a bigger agenda here. With that being said, I want you to take this time to consider the denial of this proposal. Thank you.
Dan McCausland, 328. I just want to say one thing. There's a lot of passion in this room. You know, wow. You know, I live up the way in the next township. We have these passionate meetings like this. I can feel the passion. I really can. But I think what really needs to be looked at, and I'm not taking one side or another, was an independent business guy for a long period of time. I understand where you come from, gentlemen. But I don't think slandering each other is the way to go. I really don't. I think businesses today are respectful. And I think I'm going to use a comparison. As you see on my hat, I have a house in Florida for the last 27 years. I was a Home Depot shopper before Home Depot was ever heard of. Before Home Depot ever come to this state, I was a Home Depot advocate. Because why? It was a good store. You went there. Again, you knew what you were doing. So yeah, people, when Home Depot came here, they screamed, the hardwares are going to go out of business. The little mom and pops will be put out. That didn't really happen. If businesses are going to go out, they're going to go out, regardless of Walmart, Home Depot, Sheetz. Gas stations are Mobiles and Exxons, and they merge and everything. Put all that aside. I came here tonight because I was just excited about a Sheetz. If it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't, right? That's the bottom line. I asked the planner, I'm retired. I'm looking to downsize. I have 7 acres. I'm tired of mowing the grass. I want to build a barn dominium. I'm a hot rod guy. I said to him, is there any place in this community that you would accept a barn dominium? I've been to Howell. I've been to Saline. I've been to Ann Arbor Township. I've been to Dexter. I've been to Commerce. We don't want barn dominiums. We don't want hot rods. So what am I supposed to do, collect stamps? So you know what I mean? So when I see this kind of behavior, it just means you can't do nothing because it's too expensive. I sit over there and I think, oh my God, how much is it going to cost me to try to design a barn dominium? And I'll just end up putting my hands up and say, forget it. So if I was in that situation, all I can tell you, I got no fight in the game. It's a nice station. I've been to it. They got a good coffee. But please, don't beat each other up because I just don't see this as being productive. To me, it's just, I want to walk out of the room and go home.
Thank you. Okay, do we have?
One more quick question. I didn't realize we could show pictures here. All right, so there's the proposed site, right? So Van Buren Township has something, that building right there is something to do with water. What does it do?
It's a pump station, but it's for sewage.
Sewage
It
or
pumps-
stormwater?
It pumps sewage.
Okay.
And
I just, that was,
I'm
I
sure
saw it
that's-
on my phone and I saw it when I was there and I was like, what does that thing do?
I'm sure Dan will agree, it pumps sewage down to our South Huron Valley treatment plant.
And our township engineer might know a little as well, but I think it takes and diverts wastewater. Diverts it to a different district when there's an overflow in this district. We have 3 or 4, actually 4 sanitary wastewater districts in the township. And the Rouge Valley district in this area has problems, so this station helps to divert some of the water.
Okay.
Just one last, this, not a lot of wetland stuff.
Again, John Dolinsik, 4135, or 41360 Ecorse Road. That traffic impact study, when was that done? Within the last 2 years? When the
Was done
highway,
within the last few months. I think, was it February?
February 9th, 2024.
so did they take into consideration the fact that Hagerty Road, you can't go northbound on it, the highway's been under construction? Maybe that's why the numbers are really low for how much traffic's there? Because all the fatalities that have happened at that intersection were previous to 275 closing, because that's when traffic started to drop significantly, because you only had 2 lanes north, 2 lanes south. Now, you can't even go north, you can't even go south on Hagerty. You don't want to go north on Hagerty because it's, if anybody who's driven it, they know. It's a fifth world road if you're lucky. So, I mean, the traffic's gonna be really low. Once they open up Hagerty, there's gonna be cars flying up and down there. Without a deceleration lane, you're gonna have issues. People are gonna pull out, somebody's gonna get hit, somebody's gonna be going too fast, rear end somebody. I mean, you see it happen once every couple of weeks on Hagerty Road. Somebody's getting smacked in the rear end, turning into O'Reilly's or turning into one of the other businesses. So that just, when you guys talk about, you don't know why the study was low on traffic. I mean, 100%. With the roads all closed around there, you're gonna have low numbers. Next year when it's all open, it's gonna be back to Indy 500 down there. You'll be lucky to do 55, without getting run over. So, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry. If I could just clarify this, counts were taken on November 11th, 2023, November 14th, 2023, and January 20th of 24. So I'm not sure about the 24 number, but at least the first 2 were taken, I believe, before construction on Hagerty Road. I'll verify that. Just wanted to raise that. But I do believe one of the other issues in the engineer's report was about projecting growth from the sites that are approved as well, right? I think that's one of the other issues.
Through the chair. Yeah, we just went through this with Ashley Capital. Ashley Capital is just now building 11, and they did a traffic study for 11 and 8, 9, 10, sorry. And like they wouldn't know. We gotta marry all that up, and then we did just go through this with building 11. I believe we directed them to postpone traffic counts until 275 was done in Hagerty Road. So that is a valid point. But that's, again, our letter, we preliminary reviewed it, and we recommended getting our traffic team involved with the township and making recommendations for a traffic study in the area, because there's a lot going on there, specifically with Ashley Capital doing all that development up there. So, yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else from the commissioners? Do we have an action on this item?
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I don't feel that I'm capable of doing the job that I've been appointed to do, to grant or deny this. I'm missing some information. At this time, I would move to table our request for recommendation in the matter of case 24005 until such time as staff has cleaned up or clarified the issue around the parcel split and the acreage. The traffic study has been revised to staff's satisfaction, and an analysis can be presented to the commission, and that the stacking issue, the data came in this afternoon, but I know staff hasn't had a chance to look at the drive-in stacking issue, which is also part of the special approval. So until such time as the stacking issue around the drive-through has had staff analysis and a report's been made. That's my motion.
We have a motion.
Can I support with an amendment?
Certainly discussion.
Well, discussion, I guess, would be, I'm a little concerned with the wetland area that somebody brought up. And whether it's valid or not, I don't know, and I don't think anybody in this room can clarify that, but I would like part of this to direct staff to see if there is an issue with the wetlands that are existing on site from the state.
I would be in favor of hearing that amendment to the motion along with, if I could also add, the presentation of any other mitigating information that the applicant may wish to present to staff. Would you support that amendment as
So
well?
I would support that with those amendments, yes.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Jar to postpone or table.
I believe it's a postponement, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm sorry, sir, it's a postponement.
Okay.
I may have misspoke.
That's
Postponement.
okay. Postponement, supported by Commissioner Creel. Do we have any discussion on that motion? Any further? Roll call vote, please.
Medina Atchison,
Yes.
Peter Creel,
Yes.
Bernie Grant,
Yes.
Sherry Budd,
Yes.
Jeff Jar,
Yes.
Brian Cullen.
Yes. Okay, that motion is to be postponed on the special land use until further information is obtained at this time. Okay, now, we can take a look at the preliminary site plan at this point, correct, and provide some information, and we would also look at postponing that when the time came.
I would advise if you do look at the preliminary site plan, you should postpone your decision because it relies on that special land use review. Whether or not you look at that in depth tonight or hear our comments is up to the planning commission.
Commissioners, what's your,
I would note that there may be a bearing on some of this based on the further information that's going to be provided.
You know, we've already been at this almost 2.5 hours. I understand, but, you know, if we don't do a special approval, isn't going anywhere. I think that needs to all be cleaned up with all the issues that have been brought up in that motion. And I really just believe we should table the next 2 items.
If we're discussing, Mr. Chair, then I agree that postponing the preliminary site plan review until such time as the special land use has been brought back before us, and to give the applicant time to address the comments from our planners on the on the preliminary site plan. So if we don't necessarily need to review this plan, they come back with another revised plan at a later date, is what I was
So-
thinking.
what I need to do is to bring this up as an item to be considered first, and then we can go for the postponement. Okay. Item number 3, case 24005, Skilkin Gold Sheets Premier DeQuinder 2 LLC, preliminary site plan review, and a request by the applicant, Skilkin Gold, on behalf of the property owner Premier DeQuinder 2 LLC, to construct a gasoline fueling station, convenience store, and drive-through restaurant, including 6,139 square foot convenience store and drive-through restaurant building, and a 4,786.7 square foot canopy with 12 fueling pumps. The site includes 15.95 acres of property on parcels as stated at the southwest corner of Ecorse and Haggerty Road. At this time, I believe, instead of entertaining other comments by staff and the applicant, we would entertain a motion for postponement based on the postponement of the special land use.
So moved.
Is that how it's done?
Support.
Okay. So for item number 3, we have a motion to postpone case 24005, Skilkin Gold Premier DeQuinder 2 LLC, preliminary site plan, and a support for that issue. Do we have a discussion on it? Seeing none, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Sherry Budd, Bernie Grant, Peter Creel,
Yes.
Medina Atchison, Jeff Jar, Brian Cullen.
Yes. Carries for a postponement. Sorry, folks, there's too much information that it's bringing up that we just don't feel comfortable going forward. And So at this time, I apologize, but that's where it stands. Finally, do we have any general discussion and any updates?
There will be a meeting on July 24th.
Okay.
My update.
Anybody else? Any comments from our commissioners?
Through the chair, I know
announcements?
it's open discussion. Dan, there's a letter in the packet that is for reference. Can we have like some sort of study that indicates whether we are in need of an additional gas station in the 48111? I don't know how much that will help us with, it won't help us at all with this situation, but it would maybe encourage or discourage, developers from putting in an additional gas station. I referenced Cape Coral a while ago, that Cape Coral, we can look it up. There's an application for 200 additional car washes permitted in Cape Coral. Did you see it? You're shaking your head yes. Or did I tell, oh, I told you about it, okay. I would not want to live in Cape Coral with 200 car washes plus the already ones existing in Cape Coral. I don't want to live in a community that has all gas stations, all banks, all, heavy industrial. We have to have, just like we have to have housing for all ages, we have to have a community that offers everything. We know that with supply and demand, we currently have gas stations that have been in our neighborhood. They're part of our community. I don't want to put them at a disadvantage. I don't want, but I also have to abide by the rules that we have to govern by. We cannot say no just because, competition is, we're in America, competition is the name of the game. However, I also don't want to, jump through all these hoops if we don't even need another gas station. That's all I've got to say. So if you can provide us with something that says we have a need for a gas station, because if Sheetz can put in a routine maintenance automotive, we need that. I do know that for sure. We need routine maintenance in our community in the 48111. Maybe not so much a gas station. Thank you.
Good comments. Could I?
Mr. Chair, I have one more comment.
Sure.
And maybe a question. I think this is the first gas station that's come up for special land use since we put in the ordinance changes? If it's not the first, it's one of the very first. It's the first, right?
Yep.
So I feel like, this has been kind of a strange meeting because gas stations aren't normally terribly contentious. But before we put in the ordinance, it was allowed by right. So by changing our ordinance, what was it, 2 years ago now?
You said it was 22 that we changed it.
Time flies. But, the number of steps that we need to go through on getting a gas station approval is significantly larger than it used to be. And I just want to make, I want to make the point that normally we wouldn't have gone through at this level of detail with a recommendation up to the township board. And to speak to Commissioner Atchison's point, I would not be surprised if the township board came back and asked that same question. What really is the economic design? You guys just put in an ordinance that said it has to be special land use, it needs extra oversight. Tell us why this is the first gas station that's going in.
Well, I think it should be noted, it's not just a gas station. I don't know of any gas station that's a 24/7 kitchen open. Or, what is it, a dozen EV charging stations. It seems a little transitional from a standard gas station. So that's the sort of thing that makes it a little different than just gas.
Yeah, that's what I was seeing out there on that corner is the fact that if you look down Haggerty Road, there's nothing on Haggerty Road really as far as food is concerned.
Burger King.
Not on Haggerty.
Isn't that on Haggerty?
It's on
Right on Haggerty and Ecorse.
Gas stations.
Across the street.
Oh, is it down on Hannon Road? Oh.
With all the
But
trucks.
that's in Romulus. That's not Van Buren.
No.
The thing is,
Oh, the Speedway.
so the
Speedway has
No,
it.
the one on that other corner.
it's across the street. The other difference is the BP across the street also accommodates a lot of trucks. It's not as people-friendly with a lot of trucks. There's the other difference. It's not as social.
They have a
Really at all.
scale there as
At
well as
all.
a truck
Lots of
wash.
bad things happen there.
Mhm.
Ask our police.
Read to that conversation, ask for clarification, because with some direction for staff, we want to make sure we're bringing back what we can feasibly bring back and actually helps the process. As you know, this body is not in the driver's seat of going out, marketing or advertising for new types of development to come in. We try to make ourselves a redevelopment-ready community, but we are not going out and seeking sheets. We're not going out and seeking any business like that. What we have to keep in mind is that as part of the special land use criteria, which as Commissioner Jar said is brand new, there are no gas stations that have gone through this process before in the township. One of the criteria that has to be presented clearly by any applicant, and there are actually 2 active applications for gas stations right now, they both are being asked to provide this, is they need to present the market need for what they're doing. And that is not something, I mean, as staff, we can help to put an RFP out for a market study if that's something that is being sought. But I think that what we need is the applicant to present a clear case. We've given this applicant and another applicant some really clear direction on, there are some things that have significantly changed since it was only BP at that corner in the late 90s, early 2000s, but we need that data to give you all an informed decision on, does this area really need another 1 or 2 gas stations? And that's something we know
And again,
would be helpful in your decision making.
And again, they didn't just throw a dart at a board. They came to that spot for a specific reason. A lot of Ashley Capital people, busy intersection, different type of service. I mean, they're looking to, I mean, a big drive-through. It's not like that's not just coffee like Tim Hortons drive-through down
But if
at
they
the
don't
expressway.
accommodate trucks, at least that's what they said, they don't accommodate
Right.
trucks.
Yeah.
Well, they have to come through us to make it yet,
That
to
was
do
a
that.
concern when I looked at that size property.
Too, yeah.
Are they gonna have diesel pumps there?
But no. I didn't-
For car pickup. But the canopy height limits whether a truck can get into it or not.
No, it's the diesel, it's the volume of the pump.
And also the volume, that's right.
And they don't have truck parking.
There's no
Ashley
long-term
Capital
truck
people, truckers are not gonna be going there.
Right.
Good conversation. I think we have clear direction. To the last point, I think it's a very good point, the market need. That's something we've been trying to get some more information on from this applicant, and we will try to continue doing so.
A restaurant would be nice.
Yeah.
But they attach pumps to it.
It's a restaurant with gas.
Well, for some reason, they go on Michigan Avenue, but they don't go on that corner.
Through the chair. I don't know if we're done with this topic or not. I have one more I just wanted to bring up. On some of the plans that we've already approved, final site plan or such, I know we've talked about them, the paint store on Belleville Road and such. Is there a way to, I see the grass, I drive by there a lot, and with all the rain and moisture that we've had, the weeds and the grass are growing out of control. And I don't know if the township or
The site where the paint store is preliminary.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, is there any way that we can hold the developers accountable for maintaining the lot prior to groundbreaking?
Yes. The ordinance regularly enforces on.
Okay,
on
I
mowing
just,
and- yes.
because I just noticed that they haven't really cut their lawn out here.
Fly by there.
I do,
near
I fly by.
Belleville Road. No
I do.
contact with the
Grass
ordinance
wave.
Oh, the
officer.
ordinance officer,
He
yeah.
doesn't see it
Yeah,
'cause
we
he's driving by
can have ordinance go and notify for that.
There is a process in place then?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
When construction is ongoing, and this is relevant for at least one construction site that's ongoing, it's a little harder to enforce on vegetation management until the site's fully occupied, and that's something we're dealing with in a couple of locations. But before anything breaks ground and after anything's occupied, there's the ordinance process is there to make sure lawns are mowed and weeds are cut down.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, do we have any other announcements, discussions?
It's up to you, Mr. Chairman.
It's public, yes. We're a public body.
Jim Foley, 9651 Jackson Street. somebody on the board may want to reach out to Romulus, see if there was something they overlooked with the sheets that's being built there that may help you guys make your decision. I don't envy the decision you have to make. I know what I would decide. But while I was sitting here listening to that guy talk about how they're, you know, a good company and everything, I checked Amherst, Ohio, Elyria, Ohio, Sheffield, Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, and Altoona, Pennsylvania. And all the Sheetz gas stations were roughly between 25 and 35 cents higher than any gas station near them. You know, the closest gas station to them was a half mile away. You know, so they might be the Dollar General gas stations. They come in, undercut the prices. Gas stations close, they raise the prices, they're the only ones there. You know, that happens with Dollar General Market all over the country. You know, Dollar General moves in, drives competition out, and then you're hostages to them.
I've allowed him, yes. Mr.
I'd like to compliment you. You carry a really nice meeting. I've been to a lot of meetings and from what I've done for my life and properties I've owned, some places are very arrogant. They won't let the people talk. You're very nice and you engage with your public. I would be proud to live here, to tell you the truth.
Well, come join us.
I'd like to. I'd like to. But let me tell you, by the way, sir, I've been to every one of those stations that you say, and that's not true. Don't spread falsehoods about people, because BJ's Wholesale just opened by us,
Canton.
75 cents a gallon less. But the Speedway's packed, the Myers packed, the Mobile's packed. Everybody makes their own choices. There's no devastation. So these guys, I don't think they're looking to devastate anybody. It's kind of, here's what I look at it. It's cool, hip, and exciting, and I think you could bring it to your town and let some synergy go around it. But put that aside. Here's one thing while I'm here I'd like to talk to you about. I'm a big proponent of flooding. We have a horrible flooding problem in our community. And, you know, it naturally flows down and it flows out. How can all these townships and community get together with the county to control this flooding? That's what I've really been pushing. You know, we pay a levy for drains and maintenance for the last, I think, 18 years. We've got nothing. I've got pictures of the creek behind my house that's at the top of the banks and came over today. That's where I think the real enemy in the room is the whole infrastructure has been so neglected for all of my lifetime. Trees are down, everything's plugged. I think as a whole region, we need to get the flooding under control.
I don't disagree.
And I hear it from all these different bodies that a project has to worry about a retention pond, but I use it as the analogy, you fill that bathtub, but there's nowhere for it to drain. So it has to have a drain somewhere. And, you know, I think that's where leaders of all these communities need to get together and say, we have a real problem here. And that's the crux of it. But again, it was very nice to come visit you tonight. You're very nice people. I applaud you for letting everybody speak, and nobody feels alienated. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, would you entertain a motion to adjourn?
Absolutely.
Motion to adjourn.
Bernie supported. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? I didn't think so.
Thank you, sir, for your comments.
Just
Thank you.
For your kind words.
Motion to adjourn.